So welcome all of you here. Not many, but then the core and the core audience is here who are interested in research work. So let me begin. My name is K.K. Sinha. I am advisor in Finovista. I am formerly a Government of India official from with a, you can say, technical background, and now I am advisor to Finovista. And I would be beginning the proceedings here, initiating it. And I will just talk about the research program that research sessions had. I mean, the individuals who have come from to represent those organizations will do the actual presentation. But before that, I would just like to give you a reference or relevance of the research in adoption of eCooking. So in fact, the very we, Finovista, is an in-country partner of Modern Energy Cooking Services, which is a UK-based body, you can say, funded by the UK government. And they are into promoting clean cooking, modern energy-based cooking rather, with emphasis on electricity across the nations which are still facing being used unclean fuels for cooking purposes. So if you look at the activities of this organization, MECS, it's basically a research program funded by UK Aid, FCDO, and led by Loughborough University. So that is how, I mean, basically this MEX itself is a research program, and that is why the importance of this session. While we talk about several things in our session, challenges, practical implication, what are the hindrances faced and how to overcome them. Those are which are done on the shop floor, sometimes done in the research lab. But here we actually, through research, we find out what are the causes and where to hit. Where to hit in the sense where to apply the remedial measures. So this program researches, I mean, the socio-economic realities of a transition from polluting fuels to a range of modern fuel. Range of modern fuels, as you know, I mean, electricity is one, but hydrogen is also being tipped for that. LPG and PNG gas, which we use in India, is also relatively cleaner compared to the biomass or cow dung, which is used predominantly in rural areas. So the research which has been conducted already by MECS, of course the details will be given by Dr. Nick, who is also here and will be speaking just after me. So while the research has covered several clean fuels, the evidence is pointing to the viability, cost effectiveness, and user satisfaction that energy efficient electric cooking devices provide. So there is very clear evidence that electric cooking is an alternative option which is affordable, which is viable to implement. Now, in India, I mean, of course, this program works with several organizations across Asia and Africa, with NGOs, with the government, with the private sector, the academia, policy representative or policy makers, you can say, and that is government and communities. And altogether, they are working in 16 countries. Am I correct now? Yeah. Right, thank you. In India, it was started not much, I mean, hardly 4-5 years back in 2020. And Finovista, as I said, is the in-country partner of MEX in India. And I mean, here also again, it is working on the policy, that is what kind of policy is required at the government level to support this transition. Where are the barriers, how to address those barriers through policy, through financing, all those things are supply chain for the e-cooking devices, the power requirement, the infrastructure of electrical distribution, all those things are being studied. And in addition, it also supports to make India a global hub for manufacturing of electric cooking devices, induction stove, electric pressure cooker. Now you have seen even the infrared cookers also. Of course, they are altogether different, solar power based, thermal battery, based on thermal battery. Somewhere you can say solar power based, but it is electric cooking. So all options are there, and actually the fact is that at no time, anywhere in the world, I think there is one single fuel being used for cooking. Even in USA, in 2 different states, one place I saw that electric cooking is the only option given. Any kind of flame is not allowed inside your house, like Illinois state. I went to Washington state, there the LPG was being used. Of course, not like the way we do it here in India. It is not open, it is covered by a kind of glass and things like that. So what I mean to say is one single fuel can never be a total solution for cooking purposes. And accordingly, a combination of, depending on the area, what availability, the convenience, the cost, and all those things which will decide it. So, I mean, there are about four research to be presented by different organizations, and I'm very happy to note that they are already here. But before that, I would like to invite Dr. Nick Rosu, who is International Liaison Manager for MEX program, based in UK, but he keeps coming to India and coordinate and guides and all those issues. So he would be in a better position to explain as to what is the importance of research in this energy transition for cooking. Please, floor is yours. Thank you.
We had a kind of philosophical discussion, myself and Tikisina here, about the role of research and what is research and what it isn't. And for me, what we have in the other room is people making statements. Electricity is too expensive, rural people can't do this, the discoms won't like that. All these statements are made, and I make statements, and we all make statements, but often they don't have a grounding in evidence. People will have these ideas in their head about certain things, they have a prejudice, they have a view, because it's hard to get evidence in India because it's such a big country. So it is really, really important and incredibly valuable that we listen to real evidence and that we encourage people to carry out studies. It may take a long time. The trouble is, it's easy to make a quick statement, but it might take you 2 years to do a proper study. But that 2 years is then giving someone who can make a statement saying, I know this because this has been researched. So a nice example recently is I focused on the question of what is it that leads to people choosing a clean fuel when they cook in India. And I thought I'd have, I don't know, 10 papers to investigate. I think I found 70 published pieces of research. Whoops, I'm going all over the place. Either qualitative research or quantitative research, analysing large data sets or going into villages and carrying out ethnographic studies of people's behaviour, talking to people. And between them, they came up with a great deal of really rich information about all different sorts of factors that leads to people deciding they're going to switch or they're not going to switch, or today they're going to switch and tomorrow they're not. And that gave me a lot more confidence, and I then wrote this paper, which I've now published, and I'd be interested in any comments, about how to then construct a program in India that is most likely to lead to people changing to electric cooking. And I couldn't have written that paper without all that research, and all those, some of them go back to 2015. So, you know, if you're researchers here, I really value what you're doing, and we want to hear about it. Sadly, I can't be here for all of this afternoon, but we at MEX are totally committed to evidence-based advice, evidence-based policy, and often what we do is we take data and we kind of bring it together and try to present it back to the world in a way that does actually help people to make decisions. And so Professor Matt Leach, who's here, he does a lot of modelling work and projections. And again, they're based on lots of different data sets that we've combined. So the sessions this afternoon, I think you're going to be giving us a quick summary of them, are a nice example of the diversity of research, from sort of exploratory studies to some hard data collection of cooking and energy use and practice, to studies of small businesses in Nepal and how they approach cooking and the issues that they face. I'm trying to think what's the... So, but that is all the lovely richness. And I'm very fortunate. I hope you enjoy your work. I love working for MEX because it's so diverse. I'm a psychologist by background, so I'm not a technology expert. I'm not a business person. I'm not a financial person. But all these things come together in MEX, and you have to try to work out how does that insight relate to that insight. So anyway, so I've rambled on, but thank you very much. I hope you enjoy it, and we want to kind of hear from you, what more research is needed. I'm doing a stock take this year, saying, where are the gaps in our evidence base? Where do we need to have tools? Because we're now in the fortunate position of having government officials and ministers listening to us. So we need to be able to say, this is possibly going to happen if you do this. If we can shift people away from from LPG to electric, then what could be the savings to the India exchequer? We need that kind of evidence, and so it's really, really valuable. So, thank you.
Dr. Nick, for the presentation, for your explanation and emphasizing the importance of it. And the first, now the presentation is being made by Mr. Sunil Mani, who is Policy Advisor in an India Institute for Sustainable Development. And the subject topic that he has worked upon and will be presenting is electrifying cooking through smarter subsidies and rooftop solar. Please.
Thank you, Dr. Sinha, for the introduction, and thanks, Nick, for setting this up. So I'll be presenting some of the research that we are doing at IIST as part of our clean cooking project. And I want to thank Finovista and MEX for organizing this and giving us this opportunity to present our research. So maybe I'll just quickly start. I don't know if it is here. Thank you. Yeah. So I'll maybe straight away start my presentation. My colleague Shruti Sharma, who is supposed to be here, is not here today because of her professional commitments. But I'll take you through some of the ongoing research that we are doing. And I've been in the clean cooking space since last 6-7 years. Before this, I was working with CEW, where I was actually working on mostly focusing on LPG related research. But here I've been with IIST as a policy advisor for last 2 years. And here we are also trying to figure out ways to move towards non-fossil clean cooking solutions. And one of them, of course, is electric cooking. And we are also focusing on biogas as a potential for rural India, which is, again, a non-fossil sort of solution. So I'll straight away start with my presentation. I did present some of these bits last year as well, as part of this session only. But just to refresh your memories, so about India's clean cooking energy access story, 63% of the Indian households right now use clean fuels as their primary source of cooking, and most of them use LPG. This is 2022-23 NSSO data. But the concern is that 37% Indian households still depend primarily on solid fuels, polluting fuels, for meeting their cooking energy needs. And this number is actually, quite high, even higher in rural India, which is 51%. So more than half of the rural India still depend on solid fuels to meet their cooking energy needs. When we look at NFHS 5 data, it shows that around 0.64% Indian households reported that they use electric cooking as their primary source of cooking. Of course, the penetration among of electric cooking is much higher. It's around 5 to 7%, but only 0.64% of the households reported that they use electricity as their primary source of cooking. And for biogas, this number is 0.32. So if you add these two up, you will see not even 1% of the households are actually dependent on, primarily dependent on solutions which are other than LPG. So this is the story for India. About how Government of India is actually promoting and subsidizing LPG. We did an assessment and we found out that Government of India actually provided around 40,000 crore rupees every year in the last 10 years as LPG subsidies. This includes both direct as well as indirect subsidies. The direct subsidy number might be a little smaller, but I'll just maybe talk about what all do we include when we quote this number. So of course this bit everybody is aware of, that Government of India subsidizes LPG consumption through DBTL. This is mostly for PMUI households. And then of course also in promoting LPG access through the scheme, where they are giving connection free of cost or maybe of half of the cost of the actual value. But this third thing is actually the thing which is actually very, very important, and which like very few people actually talk about this bit, is Government of India, the price at which right now you get LPG, which is around 853 rupees for a 14.2 kg refill. This itself is subsidized right now. And there's a subsidy of around, and we're doing this assessment and found that it's around 30%. So basically it's priced 30% lesser right now. So basically the actual price of LPG refill, based on the international prices, is supposed to be around 1110 rupees. That's the exact number that we have right now. And that's the basis of doing this entire cost assessment. This this is something that is counted as under recovery, because oil marketing companies sell LPG refills at lower prices, or for which Government of India actually compensates them every couple of years, huge amount. Last time it was 22,000 crore in 2022-2023. This year again I think it is somewhere around 40,000 OMCs, that the compensation that they have received. And that also is, they are saying, OMCs are saying that also doesn't really cover for all the losses that they have had to make, for selling LPG below the actual market price. And finally, GST concession and custom duty exemption on LPG. Right now LPG has 5% GST, but if you compare all the fossil fuels, they are usually taxed at around 18%. So there is this another sort of exemption that is given to LPG. This was last year, like the actual subsidy support could further increase, because Government of India also announced various subsidies recently. And promotion of eCooking can actually significantly reduce this subsidy expenditure. So these are the numbers that we have for the last 10 years. So the number that you can see, the latest number is FY23. We are still updating it for FY24. So this will be updated very soon, because this report is about to be published soon, and there will be one more additional column added to this bit. But as you see, the average line, the orange line, the horizontal line, that's what the average is. Around 40,000 crore is what Government of India is spending every year for LPG. Sorry.
GST is not applied on petroleum product in general.
Yes, but with LPG it is actually 5%.
Okay, that is latest one.
Yes, yes. Right. So and this is about why India needs to explore other clean cooking alternatives. Of course, LPG is there; it has done great things in terms of promoting clean cooking access in the country, for sure. But now, why India needs to move away? So these are some of the facts. India's LPG imports have constantly risen. Right now, they are around 65% of the overall LPG use that India is right now doing. You can see the figures on the right. This was only 43% in 2015-16. So as you can see, it's actually a significant improvement, increase that we have seen. What it does is it actually exposes Indian consumers to international fluctuations in oil prices, and this is something that we witnessed during COVID. When actually Government of India suddenly removed LPG subsidies, and then LPG prices in India actually got market linked, and then that started in the 1 or 2 years after COVID, the LPG prices increased significantly, because of which a lot of households actually moved back to what they were using earlier. So that sort of uncertainty and is always there when you have to depend on a fuel which is actually coming from imports. And if you are constantly promoting LPG, you are going to increase your import dependence further and further. With LPG, another problem is that it's actually very difficult to ensure doorstep delivery for LPG refills. There is this research by CW which shows that only half of the households in rural India receive doorstep delivery of LPG refills, and those who don't, they have to travel a one-way distance of around 3 to 4 kilometers to get access to LPG, which again is an additional cost in terms of the time and effort and all of that, and also money-wise also it's going to cost something. And finally, LPG is a fossil fuel, and it does not really align well with India's long-term net zero commitments. So as we are, greening our grid more and more, e-cooking can solve many of these problems. So now the question is how e-cooking actually compares with, LPG and PNG in terms of the operational cost. This is the analysis. So some of this bit actually comes from the earlier research that I did with CW. So at the current LPG price right now, and this I'm talking about the subsidized price, which is the 853 price that you see right now for 14.2 kg LPG refill, e-cooking is at least 15% cheaper than PNG or LPG for most of Indian households. And the reason why I say most of Indian households is because here is where you can see the comparison. So the price that I have assumed for electric cooking, electricity is 6 rupees per kilowatt hour. This is the tariff which is actually, not the tariff that most Indian consumers pay. Most Indian consumers still pay somewhere around 5.5 rupees on an average. So which is why if you account for that actual tariff, e-cooking could be even cheaper. But what we've done is we've actually, in the last column in this table, we have the total annual expenditure that would be incurred with LPG, because the assumption is that a typical household in India would need around 8 LPG refills every year if they want to depend exclusively on LPG. So the annual expenditure that they will end up making is 6824 for LPG. For PNG, again, there's this assumption that 137.2 SCM is the amount of PNG that would be needed every year if they want to exclusively depend on PNG. And for that, the cost comes out to be, and the cost in Delhi NCR region is right now 50 rupees per SCM. So if you look at the annual cost for PNG, it is going to be 6860. Whereas with electric cooking, there is a whole lot of published literature which says that if you have to actually exclusively depend on electric cooking, you will only need to consume around 970, 980 units. So we've gone ahead with the 9874 number, which is all published in the CW report, which I also cite right below. You will see that even at 6 rupees per kilowatt hour, it's going to cost 5844, which is 15% lesser than what you would end up paying in LPG and PNG. And not to forget, this is the subsidized LPG that we're talking about. This is not even the unsubsidized one. And that's what, like here, the line this says is that e-cooking will continue to be cheaper at the current price, which is the which is a subsidized price. At this price, e-cooking will be cheaper until you pay an effective electricity tariff of 7 rupees. So if the effective electricity tariff that you're paying is less than 7, e-cooking is going to be cheaper for you based on these sort of assumptions that we have here. We also have some additional findings, and this is where I come to the non-subsidized price, which is 1110. If LPG is sold at its actual market price, that's when e-cooking will become even more cheaper. In fact, it is going to remain cheaper until the effective electricity tariff is less than 9.1 rupees. The reason why I'm mentioning effective electricity tariff again and again is because in India, the electricity tariff is telescopic, right? So even if you're paying, let's say, a tariff of 7 rupees or 8 rupees or 9 rupees, it's not going to be applicable on all the units that you have consumed, right? Because for the initial few 100 units, 200 units, the tariff is going to be lesser, which is why the effective electricity tariff, even if the highest electricity tariff that you're paying is 7 or 8 rupees, the effective electricity tariff is going to be much lesser. So what this shows is that even if the effective electricity tariff is less than 9.1, e-cooking is cheaper, which sort of reflects a true economic gain, that the consumers can achieve, the economy can achieve. Of course, for PMUI household, this break-even point is 4.54 rupees, which kind of shows that because for PMUI households, they receive additional 300 rupees subsidy, and which is why it may not work out very well for PMUI households if they are paying a tariff of, let's say, more than 4.54 rupees per unit for electricity. And which is why one of the things that we can perhaps go ahead with, that we can perhaps continue to promote LPG in rural India for the time being, or maybe also try and explore solutions like biogas. And that is a separate comparison that we have done as part of this study, where we also find that biogas is also a significantly cheaper solution in the long run when you compare it with LPG in terms of the life cycle cost. So which means non-fossil solutions are clearly, in terms of in economic sense, they are better. But there is this additional concern sometimes with e-cooking that people say is the emission intensity of the grid in India right now is is actually higher because of the huge reliance on coal that we have right now. So which is why perhaps we could also try and integrate e-cooking program with the rooftop solar program. And thanks to the Pradhan Mantri Surya Ghar Yojana, that is actually providing 30,000 rupees subsidy per kilowatt. So what we've also done is taken this one step ahead, and we're trying to see if we combine electric cooking with rooftop solar, how it compares with LPG in terms of the payback period. And I've already listed down, the cost aspect of LPG. There are two prices that we've considered. One is the subsidized price, which is the 853 rupees, and the other one is the unsubsidized price, which is 1,110 rupees. So we compare RTS plus e-cooking with the LPG. And the way we have actually done this modeling, and this is very basic Excel-based modeling, and of course, if you have any sort of inputs here, we can always enrich the model and try and incorporate as much feedback as possible, just so that that model becomes more and more robust. But I'm just presenting some of the initial findings that we have. But the idea here is that whatever the households are spending on LPG, if you want to actually replace that and give them rooftop solar plus electric cooking, and that takes away the LPG. So whatever they were paying for LPG every month, if you continue to pay that for rooftop solar plus e-cooking, so you don't pay any sort of upfront cost for RTS plus e-cooking, you just continue to pay whatever you were spending on LPG, that as a monthly installment. So then how much time does it take for us to then pay it back? Some of the assumptions that I'm listing down for this modeling that we've done, we've assumed that 1 kilowatt rooftop solar will be more than sufficient to cover the electricity needs for cooking for a family of 4 to 5. In fact, 1 kilowatt RTS will produce 120 kilowatt hours per month, assuming 16.7% CUF, which is the standard. E-cooking will only utilize 80 kilowatt hours per month. So which means if it is producing 120 units in a month, e-cooking is only going to take 80 from that, right? Which means you still get additional 40 units with you. And for this, what we've done is we've assumed that these additional 40 units that you will get from the rooftop solar, 1 kilowatt rooftop solar, will actually be utilized by the consumers themselves, and they will value it at 5 rupees per kilowatt hour, which is a fair assumption because that's the kind of tariff that most Indian households are paying for electricity. So even if they are using the surplus produced from rooftop solar for their own consumption, they would anyways value it at 5 rupees because that's the tariff that they are paying to the DISCOM. Second assumption is cost of 1 kilowatt rooftop solar is 65,000, lifetime is 25 years, but the moment you account for the central financial assistance that you receive as part of Pradhan Mantri Surya Ghar Yojana, which is the rooftop solar scheme, Government of India's flagship RTS scheme, the effective cost for 1 kilowatt RTS is going to be 35,000 rupees because it reduces from 65 to 35. Then there's this additional assumption where we are assuming capital cost for e-cooking device, which is 3,000 rupees that we have assumed right now. But again, the model is flexible and we can always increase it to incorporate more and more feedback. Another assumption is net metering right now, that of course most of the cooking is going to happen during evening time when sun is not there. So of course what will happen is households will export electricity to the grid, and then they will use it during the evening. So this net metering assumption is very, very important, and I'll maybe talk about why later. And then of course this assumption that I also covered in the last slide, that a typical household from urban India uses 8 LPG refills in a year. So the monthly payment, because this calculation that I also spoke about in the last slide, so if you pay 853 rupees for one refill, and you consume 8 refills in a year, you end up spending 6,824 rupees in a year, which translates to a monthly spending of 569. So this is the monthly sort of installment that I was talking about previously, that you get a rooftop solar. Let's say there is a financing mechanism where Government of India facilitates RTS plus e-cooking to a household. They say that you don't have to pay any upfront cost right now, but you continue to pay what you were paying for LPG earlier. But then the moment you look at unsubsidized LPG, this monthly installment is going to be higher because that's the actual cost of LPG, 1,110. It could be even higher. This is just based on what we have done. Then the monthly spending is going to be 740. So for subsidized, we have assumed a number of 569, whereas for unsubsidized, we have assumed a number of 740. And then the second last assumption that RTS will be financed completely with no upfront payment. The rate of interest is 6.75 is what I've assumed, because this is the standard rate of interest that is there even as part of the guidelines of PM Surya Ghar. So whoever wants to install RTS as part of PM Surya Ghar, they will be getting all the finance at 6.75%. So that's a standard rate of interest. But again, like, we can always play around with this to see like if this changes anything. Finally, we have also incorporated a BESS component, battery storage, because sometimes, if this net metering is not there, because this is all dependent on net metering. But the moment you introduce gross metering into picture, then what might happen is in the evening hours, the tariff that you will be paying for cooking is going to be much higher than the tariff that you will be getting back from the DISCOM. So which is why we've also tried to do this with BESS, and that result I'll be sharing later. But this is how these are the findings that we get. So if we opt for an unsubsidized RTS plus eCooking, which means 65,000 rupees for rooftop solar and 3,000 rupees for electric cooking, it will take more than 10 years compared to a subsidized LPG price of 853 rupees. The payback period is 10 years. But yeah, so these are the results that we have done. So if you see, like, the left is about the subsidized one. But when you actually look at the non-subsidized LPG price, that's when you see the payback period actually reduces significantly. And the only difference between the yellow one and the blue one is, the yellow one is where you are not accounting for the extra units that will be generated from RTS, the 40 extra units. But the blue one is the one where you are also accounting for them as part of the payback. So you are basically valuing it at 5 rupees per kilowatt hour. And this is the more realistic scenario, the blue one. So which is why, the yellow one, I just kept it just so that, if there is a scenario where those 40 units they're not able to utilize at all, but this is not going to be practical. So you can perhaps only focus on the blue one for now. So if you compare with subsidized LPG, the payback period is 10 years. For unsubsidized RTS plus eCooking, it reduces to 7.76 when you compare it with non-subsidized LPG. So you'll be able to recover in around 8 years for RTS. But this is unsubsidized RTS. If we account for the subsidies that PM Surya Ghar provides, then the payback period actually reduces significantly, and that's the result that you can see on the right. It actually comes down to 4 to 7 years. If you compare it with the non-subsidized LPG, you will be able to recover the money in 4 years of time. And imagine that, that system will continue to work for 25 years. So which means that it is going to give you huge economic gains as an individual consumer, but also to the government, because government is then going to save a lot of money in terms of the subsidy spending that they were anyways doing every month. So this is the scenario. Then, as I said earlier, we also incorporated BESS, because this is all based on the net metering assumption. But if you have to shift from net metering to gross metering, then of course the economics might change, and which is when it might be economically, let's say, incorporating a battery storage system might be economically better option for the consumer. And that's another comparison that we do right now, where you actually combine eCooking with RTS plus BESS, battery storage. And as I said earlier, the cost of battery storage system that we've assumed is, it's a 2-hour storage system, because that's what you need. That should to meet all your cooking needs during the evening, if it is a 2-hour system, because let's say 1.5 hours you can utilize for the dinner, and maybe half an hour you can use for the breakfast in the morning. So that 2-hour assumption, which actually costs you additional 25,000 for 1 kilowatt. So initially, when we look at unsubsidized RTS, the payback period is more than 16 years. But this is not realistic, because right now there is subsidy with PM Surya Ghar, and we see that the paybacks reduces significantly. Yeah. So as you can see here, when you compare unsubsidized RTS and when you compare it with non-subsidized LPG, it is 12 to 18 years. But the moment you account for RTS subsidies, the payback period again reduces significantly for RTS plus eCooking plus BESS. So even here, even though the recovery period, the payback period is higher compared to the 4.4 to 7 years that you saw in the previous slide, here it is a little higher, let's say 7 to 10 years, but still it is making economic sense, because again, the RTS system is going to last for 25 years. And even the battery storage system that you have purchased, usually, these days, battery storage system, have this life of around 12 to 15 years on an average, right? So if you're able to recover that money in 7 to 10 years, you're anyways, getting some sort of economic benefit there as well. So this is the analysis, which actually shows, however, this also maybe presents a case that, if there could be some sort of additional subsidy that government can provide for battery storage system, especially for the households who are opting it for cooking, right? Because then you can actually utilize some of the subsidy savings that you're going to get with LPG to basically facilitate these things. In fact, with LPG subsidy savings that the government is going to get, they can actually do multiple things. They can actually utilize that money to promote, to further subsidize LPG in rural areas, or they can perhaps utilize that money to improve transmission infrastructure, so that, you're able to better, integrate all the rooftop solar systems that are going to come, and that are going to supply you electricity during the day. So there are lots of things that, saved money can do in terms of benefiting the economy. So some of the way forward, I've already covered them, but it's just about, maybe reiterating them. If you rebalance subsidies, if you shift inefficient LPG subsidies, because right now they're highly inefficient, because we have a fuel which is clearly more efficient, that is not getting prioritized, but what we have is LPG, which is actually, like highly inefficient right now, the way it is right now. So of course we can shift some of these. Of course we can do it in a gradual manner. We can utilize that towards incentivizing electric cooking adoption among urban households. The reason why we say urban households right now is because the infrastructure is good, the reliability of power supply is good. Of course, eventually we can try and promote it in the rural areas as well. But maybe, we can start with the urban households, which are more than ready to basically start utilizing this. Then there's another thing that, again, I already covered, which is if we can integrate clean cooking program with rooftop solar program, it will provide consumer savings, it will provide energy security, and it will also provide a lot of savings to the government, subsidy savings to the government, which then they can use to explore all, variety of non-fossil clean cooking solution, and it's also good for, energy security purpose for the country. The only thing that we would need for such a system to work is you need to actually, introduce low interest loans, which is already there with PM Surya Ghar, but then you also introduce pay as you save models, which is what we presented, right? So whatever money that you're saving every month in terms of the LPG spending, that only that money you're paying as a monthly installment, right? So maybe, this sort of models could be promoted more and more in terms of financing. Of course, we need to also drive public campaigns to spread awareness around how e-cooking can be cheaper, not just separately as a solution, but also, let's say, if you integrate it with rooftop solar or even with, battery storage solution. So there is a whole lot of awareness campaign that could be designed around this. Of course, there are some concerns around flame-based preferences. So yeah, of course, we can then also address them through demos and peer learning. Equity aspect is also there, because once urban households shift to e-cooking, you can actually utilize the subsidy saving to cross-subsidize rural clean cooking promotion, let's say through further subsidization of LPG, or maybe you can also promote, solutions like biogas. This one solution which is like very much needed right now is if you can develop efficient and cheaper double-plated induction cookstoves, because that is very much the need of the hour. Because when we spoke with a lot of households, they said that with induction, since there is this one plate, it actually ends up taking a little more time when you compare it with LPG. So if we can also develop affordable, double-plated induction stoves, that would be like very helpful.
That exactly double-plated? How does it help?
Two hubs.
Two hubs, okay.
Yes.
I thought probably the one.
Yeah, it has two hubs, yeah. And of course, you also need to strengthen after-sales ecosystem for e-cooking appliances, because right now, a lot of households, again, like when we did field surveys, they said that, when it stopped working, they didn't know like where to go and go and get it repaired. There were very few options, and which is why they had to discard it, because they didn't have a lot of time. So if we can, sort of run some awareness campaigns and also like create, good after sales ecosystem. And for this, of course, we can also bring in different manufacturers together, and they can perhaps set up something together. That also could be very helpful. We also did some assessment. This was around the comparison, but we also did some assessment in terms of how e-cooking is going to be beneficial for India. I don't know how much time I have. Maybe I'll just quickly cover this bit, because this is around highlighting how, let's say, if we start promoting e-cooking, even in a gradual manner, like not aggressively, how it would actually end up, giving significant savings to the government. So, and here we are only talking about urban households. We can, of course, and this modeling we've done for urban households, but we can also extend it to rural households if we do see some pattern where rural households also start transitioning to electric cooking. But this is only for urban, where we have three scenarios: low, medium, and high. And low, medium, and high, what it means is that in low scenario, 20% of the households are using electric cooking by 2050, which is actually quite low and quite conservative. But we still do this just so that we have, all sort of scenarios as part of the model. Medium is 40% and high is 60%. So let's say if 60% of the households are using electric cooking in 2050, the annual growth rate should be 8.64%. That's the number that we have derived. Maybe I'll not go into too much detail about this. This is just about like how India's population is going to grow until 2050. But what we see here is, so this is just about like share of households using urban households using e-cooking. As you can see, like three scenarios: 2050, 2040, and 60%. And that's the number of refills that will be consumed by the households. So if we look at the high scenario, which is the red graph here, you will see that the amount of LPG consumption in terms of the number of refills, what would have been there by 2050, which is shown by the blue line, which is the BAU line. If you compare it with the BAU line, which is the blue line, you will see that actually the LPG consumption is going to reduce by half if you start promoting electric cooking now. So what it shows is basically, you can significantly improve upon energy security metrics if you start promoting electric cooking from now. And that also is like, has to be like very gradual. It doesn't have to be like really, aggressive in nature. And then this just shows like how much import would it reduce. And again, like as you can see, like the number which was going, the blue line again is the BAU line. And it talks about LPG import in terms of the number of refills, because that's the standard that we've used. So if we don't promote e-cooking, if we continue with the BAE scenario, then we might be importing some 200 crores LPG refills worth of LPG by 2050. But if we pursue electric cooking in an aggressive scenario, we'll see that that demand is going to reduce significantly below 100. Similarly, amount of foreign exchange that would be saved every year as part of this clean cooking promotion program, those savings could also be significant, because that's the thing that government really cares about, right? The foreign exchange reserves, because then that foreign exchange actually can be used for different other purposes. Finally, it's about how much subsidy savings that a government can provide. And of course, I can maybe take you through the results in detail later on if somebody is interested. But I just want to show here that on the graph on the right shows that if Government of India pursues electric cooking in the high scenario, the subsidy savings could be up to the tune of 1.8 trillion rupees by 2050. But this is again, like most of the scenarios that we have here is all conservative. So if we have like more maybe realistic scenario, you might say, you might see even more significant subsidy savings. So it all depends on the assumption how you play around with them. But yeah, this is the point of this analysis, just to show that there is actually significant potential of electric cooking in terms of saving a lot of foreign exchange, saving a lot of LPG imports, and then thereby strengthening energy security, and also giving significant savings to the households. So with that, I'll stop here, and I'll be happy to answer if there are any questions. Yeah. Thank you.
now, and then we can look at the pattern and then apply it for rural areas. But if we consider the residential cooking sector, so it is one of the highest contributor of PM in India, contributing almost 60% of the emissions, right? And if we talk about rural versus urban, so the ratio would be like 85 to 15 only. So if we only focus on urban areas, LPG to e-cooking, so the remaining 85% of PM contribution, which is coming from residential cooking sector in rural areas, that somewhere remains stagnant, and and the overall burden of the emissions won't be reduced in that case. Second, my query is that and then now coming to the e-cooking part, so the overall load on the grid, which will be increased, and currently when we talk about urban, there is also peri-urban areas. So like for metro cities, there are well infrastructure, we can just focus on looking at their purchasing capacity. But if we look at the peri-urban areas where the infrastructure is not well developed, where the load is not equally distributed, even there are times when during summers or winter there is a huge fluctuation in the voltage. And now when we talk that, we are switching to e-cooking, how that load can be taken care of. Because in that case, I believe the fuel stacking will remain the same, and people might be having like e-cooking, but the reliance would be on LPG. So how this is going to help overall?
Yeah. No, I think both great questions. In fact, as part of this study, we have not left out rural India. We do also focus on rural India, but for rural India right now, maybe they are not really ready for electric cooking, is what we believe, because of the infrastructure situation right now, and the reliability of power supply, which is why I haven't presented those results here, but we are focusing on biogas as an alternative solution for rural India. And there also we've done that similar sort of comparison, and we've also looked at various successful models that are there running in the country right now, in small parts of like small villages, let's say somewhere in Uttarakhand or somewhere in Rajasthan or Gujarat. We have like very successful models of biogas right now, which is actually able to meet cooking requirements for like the entire village. It's working very well. So we have some learnings from there, and which is what we constantly keep emphasizing, and that's what I was also trying to do during my presentation, while saying that you can continue to promote, of course, LPG, but then you also try and see like how you can also move some of the households, let's say, to a non-fossil solution like biomass. We're not saying that you don't promote e-cooking, like clean cooking there. You continue to focus on that, but maybe for urban India, because a lot of your subsidy is actually going to urban households, because right now the way LPG consumption is, most of the LPG subsidies are going to urban households, right? On the other hand, what we really want is that it should actually go to rural households. How can you do that? You can't really reduce LPG subsidy for urban households, because that is like really going to make things political, and it's actually an issue for like most of the elections that are fought in the country. So here we are just trying to offer a way out where you can actually shift some of those households to electric cooking, so that it can give you some subsidy savings, and then you use that additional subsidy saving to further subsidize LPG, or maybe promote solutions like biogas. So that's the idea. We're not saying that we don't talk about clean cooking transition for rural India. That is equally important. So maybe if you go through a report that's still under the peer review process, maybe I can also share it with you if you want to have a look. But we do talk about that quite strongly. Coming to the second question about grid infrastructure, again, like maybe and that's what we do. Like, in fact, if you look at the assumptions, which I didn't really go through in the detail because of the paucity of time, but here also we are not saying that there is going to be like immediate jump to electric cooking. If you see here, this is one of the assumptions. So once an urban household shift to e-cooking, they will gradually reduce their LPG consumption. So right now, let's say if it is 8 refills, what we've assumed is between, let's say, the year 24 to 30, they are going to go from 8 to 6 only. So they are only reducing their LPG requirement by 2 refills, right? Then they are going from 8 to 4 in 2030-40, and then in 2040-50 they are going from 8 to 2, which means they are only gradually sort of replacing LPG requirement. That's what, because we understand that this is going to be practical sort of transition process. It's not possible to shift everybody to electric cooking right in one go. And of course, there will be some consequences on the grid, and which is why you have to explore multiple solutions. You have to also club it with rooftop solar program, which is what we talked about. And yeah, of course, the subsidy savings that you will get, you can also try and maybe spend some of that in the grid upgradation. But yeah, it's all going to be like gradual. Yeah.
Just a follow-up question on subsidy, if time allows. So we have looked at the PMUY Yojana, where there was a provision of a free refill, first refill as a free, and then the people needed to pay. And there we found that gradually over the year, the PMUY consumers, the refill rate decreased. So don't you think that can happen even in the urban areas, that if we somewhere try to cut off the subsidy what they are getting right now in the LPG, there might be that the initial adoption is high, and that could cost the government for an initial investment, but gradually that cannot hold for long. Won't that scenario can be repeated?
Right. No, again, a great point. Of course, that can happen. The possibility is there, but it is less likely to happen in urban India, because with PMUI, what happened was most of the PMUI consumers were in rural India, and they also had an alternative, which is solid fuel biomass that is there, right, freely available for them to collect and use. But in urban India, there are very few such alternatives. So what happens is that, again, like if you see that graph, most of the urban India has already shifted to clean cooking. In fact, that's what I showed in the beginning. I think it's around 90% or somewhere around that. Yeah. So if they are already using clean fuels, this is the figure, which shows 93% of them are already using clean fuels, which means they are using either LPG or PNG. So now they are less likely to shift back to LPG or PNG, because electric cooking is going to give them significant cost savings, right? So the comparison, the benchmark matters a lot. With PMUI, there was high chance of shifting back to solid fuels because there was clearly free alternative available. But in this case, that is less likely. Of course, that can happen, but less likely to happen. That's what our hypothesis is. But yeah, I mean, happy to discuss more if you have alternative perspectives on this. So,
thank you so much.
Sir, yeah. Yes, please.
Hi, this is Jatin from CLASP. So one question, I was just wondering, so I was just reading this fact that this year budget for PM Ujjwala is around 12,000 crores, and it got doubled in the last 5 years or so, right? This is a significant amount of money. So I was just wondering, you have done some modeling work, but I'm just wondering whether the rebalancing of these subsidies, if you have done some kind of analysis to understand the impact of this rebalancing under different scenarios. Let's say if you start doing 25% reallocation of subsidies to electric and 25 to biogas, then how would this impact the whole transition narrative?
Right. No, I think that's an interesting point. I mean, we haven't really done any sort of analysis on that, but that is something that can definitely be explored. But I'm not sure if we can, let's say start straight away with 25%, because that's going to be like really high. So maybe we have to start with something small, let's say 1% or 2%, and then do the rebalancing gradually, because right now we just can't take any sort of risk. So that's the approach that we've also taken. Like throughout the report, we're just saying that it all has to be like gradual. It will take a lot of time. It will not happen in one go.
And second thing is, would this rebalancing also affect the pace of the transition from biomass to LPG in rural areas? Because most of this fund is going to the rural areas.
So right now, yes, of course, that will have an impact, and which is why, again, like since we are saying it to be gradual, we can also try and explore, let's say if we are diverting some of the subsidies towards something like biogas, we can just try and see how it impacts. Like we can do small pilots to see, let's say at the village level, we promote biogas, and then we see like what happens. So maybe, in every village you develop 1 or 2 biogas plants, you give them some subsidy, and then show it to the other people that see how it is working. And this neighborhood effect is actually quite important, and this is actually constantly highlighted in the clean cooking literature, where you see like if one person adopts something and it is working well for them, other people are more likely to adopt it. So maybe instead of, let's say, doing it with all the households, you can just start small with smaller pilots. And then you can perhaps talk about rebalancing once you have such success stories coming from different parts of the world. And which is what, again, like we've done in this report, where we've actually looked at various villages across the country where they're successfully running the biogas program. And what are the learnings from them? We've tried to put them together so that at least we can shift the narrative in favor of, something which is non-LPG, because right now everything is going towards LPG only. So all of that will come gradually only. But yeah, thanks for that point. Okay, I think.
That was really interesting point.
Yes.
Because, when you want to promote clean cooking in rural areas, biogas thing can be an alternative better than
Yes,
electricity.
exactly.
As of
exactly.
now.
Yes, yes, absolutely. Right.
Any question?
Thank you, everyone.
We have representative from PIDA. Yeah, because that is the next session you are supposed to. And so very well. The next presentation is being made by Mr. Biraj Gautam, okay, and CEO PIDA, that is People, Energy and Environment Development Association. Understanding the diffusion of e-cooking solution for micro enterprises in mountain regions of Nepal, a crucial component of Nepal's energy transition. So we will listen to him. Please come.
Thank you very much, sir. I would like also start with thanking Max and Finovista for this opportunity. And so Sunil has did some good presentations on the modeling. So I am now trying to bring you back to the villages, how it looks like. So I'm Biraj Gautam. I work with the organization called People, Energy and Environment Development Association. This is an NGO based in Kathmandu, Nepal. We are in the electric cooking sector since last 7-8 years, and we have done a lot of research on household electric cooking, but now because it is very important for Nepal, so we are now starting some work in the commercial sector and institutional sector. So this research I'm sharing today is a part of the Innovation Lab project. So there are various organizations who are working together in the research. Back in 2023, 2024, I, along with my friend here, Ravin, we were just walking through the hills of Nepal. So it's like one picture is from 2,500 meter altitude and another picture from 1,200 meter altitudes. So the reason we were there was to investigate the sustainability of microhydro. These are the microhydro anywhere in between 10 kilowatt and 100 kilowatt. So these microhydros are around more than 1,600 in Nepal, so they electrify around 10% of households in Nepal. So when we were investigating in these villages, we went to around 26 microhydros. The capacity of the microhydro was not that good. So this microhydro was running not so in a healthy manner because of the age, because of the repair and maintenance issues, and also the income of the microhydro. They were earning around 30 to 30. So the utilization of the electricity generated from the microhydro was around 30 to 35% only. So if you we talk about the Nepal's overall things, it's around 26% on an average. So meaning that 84% of electricity generated from this microhydro is being wasted, not utilized anywhere. So like Sunil said, so this LPG is 100% imported in Nepal. The consumption is increasing every year around 10%, and every year 60 to 70 billion rupees is expended to import the LPG in Nepal. So that is also a biggest challenge for Nepal, how to reduce the consumption of LPG in the country. So in other source, there are lots of annual death because of the indoor air pollution. This is not only the Nepal's case, this is also global case. In 2022, World Bank produced one report. It says like around 7 million people every year die because of the indoor air pollution. In South Asia also, it's a huge problem. Around 2 million people die every year because of the indoor air pollution. And 9 out of 10 cities, 10 most polluted cities globally are from South Asia. So that's why the pollutions in our cities is greatly contributed by biomass. So that's why also, so it's very important for us to switch to clean cooking. Also, so there are like more than, so about like 200,000 institutions, hotel, restaurants registered in Nepal. So these mostly use LPG and firewood for the cooking. So to tackle this situation, government of Nepal has some priority. So our ambition is to reach out to 2.1 million households. That's around 25% households by 2035. So our target is around 25% households start cooking with electricity as a primary source of electric cooking. Similarly, 15,000 institutions, it will be around 10% institutions will start cooking by electricity by 2035. So as I mentioned earlier, because like only 26% electricity are being used in micro-hydro area, so the promoting electric cooking in that area is also quite important. That's why so we conducted this research. This is a little bit data from our national census. It's like around 3.5 gigawatt hour is the gigawatt is the installed capacity, on which around 90% electricity comes from hydro and around 4-5% electricity comes from solar power. So almost 98% electricity is clean, green. That's what we produce in Nepal. So there is one thermal 53 megawatt. That's not operated all the time. So it is operated whenever there is necessary. So if you see in the bottom, so this is so still like Nepal is not fully sufficient in generation. We still import electricity from India. Also we sell to India. So our anticipation is by 2028, Nepal will be fully dependent on the electricity generated, on the clean electricity generated in the country. So if you see like 2021 census, like we have around 51% of the households are cooking in the biomass. 44% households are using LPG, which the government has planned to reduce to 40%. That's the SDG goal. So we want to keep LPG less than 40%, and we want to increase the share of the electric cooking by 25% by 2035. That's why electric cooking in every sector, be it in households, be it in hotel, restaurants, and be it in institutions, everywhere is quite important for Nepal. So these are some backgrounds why we started doing some research on the electric cooking. So this project was based on this innovation lab project, where the energy is in the center, and we are trying to bring productive use of energy, landslide management, and so other e-mobility and other sectors to support the electricity generation system. So for this study, so our main objective was to understand the suitability, efficiency, and the user's acceptance of electric cooking solutions in the micro enterprises in the rural Nepal. So this study started in 2025, and now we are about to finalize our final report. So this study was conducted in the central Nepal. So this is Kathmandu, and so this is around 400-500 kilometer west of Kathmandu. So in the 54 kilometer of stretch in the Mid Hills Highway in Nepal, we conducted this research in the different small bazaar in that area. So in that 54 kilometer area, there were around 100 hotel, restaurants, tea shops, and tea shops. And out of that, we went to 51 hotel and restaurants for the baseline survey. It was basically to understand the current context of these tea shops, restaurants, and hotels. In this area, there were like equally distributed tea shops were 33%, hotels were around 31%, and restaurants were 33%. So in this graph, I'm just showing the ownership of those restaurants. Like 53% of the restaurants were owned by the house owner, and 47% those restaurants were owned by the tenant. So during the baseline survey, what we observed was like almost 100% tea shops, hotel restaurants were using LPG and firewood for cooking. There was no any electricity. So that green graphs on the top is so only one restaurant has microwave oven. Otherwise, so there were some kettles for the water boiling in the restaurants, but there was no any electric devices to cook or boil food and water. So interestingly, because these are some of the rural areas and the per day customer was quite low. So if you see almost 33% of these 51 surveyed restaurants had less than 10 customers in a day. So that's like basically quite low. But in our research, we chose those restaurants which has like at least 10 to 100 customers in a day. So during our survey, we found that some of the largest hotels were using 10 cylinders per month. So, but on an average, there were like 2 to 3 cylinders they were using in a month. So these are some of the popular menu found in those restaurants. Chow mein was quite popular, momo was quite popular, and also tea, dal bhat. Dal bhat is dal is dal, bhat is rice. We say bhat in Nepali, and also roti. Those are the like very famous dishes, very popular dishes in that locality. And also there were like other different dishes like meat, vegetables. Donut, shell roti is like similar to donut, but it's like more locally made kind of things. Samosa, namkeen, omelets, and all those kind of things. Those are the quite frequent dishes cooked in that locality. Okay, so in the beginning we had a very problem like Sunil said earlier. So we went, and so during the baseline survey, we just asked if they would like to participate in this research project. Then many of them were quite hesitant. Around 25% said, no, something like that. And also we found that around 80% of the entrepreneurs did not have any knowledge about the electric cooking. So that was quite surprising, because Nepal has started promoting electric cooking in the households, but so that may be mostly concentrated in the urban areas. So these are the rural areas, and more than 80% of these hotel owners, they did not know about the information about the electric cooking. So after that, we just discussed, sit down, and so shared like benefits of having electric cooking and all these things. And after that, we asked if they would like to participate in our research project. So many of them were hesitant, like 80% were still hesitant to take participation in our research project. That was quite challenging. So I'll, okay. Sorry. Maybe I will use my, so it's not working, maybe. Can you please help? It's not going back. If it is,
Slide is not going.
yeah, so this one, no? Is there any problem? Light is turning on. I'm sorry for the technical delays. क्या होगा भैया? Yeah, I'm sorry for the technical problem. So then, so because there was no any information and also people were hesitant, we also try to find out what is the market situation, if like local vendors, they sell anything related to electric cooking or not. So what we found out, like one or two shops had like one or two induction stoves and infrared stoves, but that were not even sold, like less than 5 induction stoves per year, even for the households. And also, people were hesitant because they felt, because they have been using the other electrical devices, so they have been facing very much problem with the repair and maintenance. So that's why also when we are talking about the electric things, they were largely hesitant who will repair it when it breaks down. So that was also so for that purpose also we went and we see there were like some repair shops, but they did not know about the repairing of electric stoves in that locality. Also, as some of the panelists shared in the morning, so in Nepal also we have a big problem with the connection. So in the rural areas, around 70% of the households have only 6 ampere connections. So in Nepal, we have the ampere connections. 6 ampere is like somewhere 1.3 kilowatt or something like that. We have 6 ampere, 15 ampere, and 6 ampere connection does not support the electric cooking. And also the wire size, if it is a like 1.5 mm square wire, also it does not support the electric cooking. That's why, so that also we try to find out, and so those materials were available in the local market. So still there was not demand coming from the hotel restaurants, and we did the demonstration work. We just invited people from the hotel and restaurants. So it's almost 28 people only participated in our demonstration event. So they were trained, and so just like given the opportunity to do the hands-on cooking during the demonstration purpose. After doing all these things, also we just noted some of the menus they cook. These are some of the cookware that is used in that area for the cooking. So this is not like straightforward like in households. In households, whenever we do the electric cooking promotion, we bundle induction stove with pressure cooker, kadai, and saucepan. That's sufficient more than 80% cooking. But in the restaurants, so there are varieties of restaurants. Some cook only dal bhat, rice, and so for the evening and morning meal. Some serve this momo and chow mein, and some serve other different dishes, as I shared earlier. So these were some of the cookware we found were being used in that area, and also the induction stoves we used for the later purpose. Then, so after that, so we had to ask about because like we did not want to give free of cost, even though it was for the research purpose. We wanted to understand the willingness to pay for the technology. So after the demonstrations, after the customizations of the product required for each individual restaurants and tea shops, some of the people say randomly 40 to 60%, some of them say they don't know. And so doing all these investigations and everything, also we wanted intensive support during the research phase from the participants, so we decided 70% or 7,000 rupees, whatever is less. So this thing we make it because like if people choose, most of the cookware as I shown in the earlier slide, so it will be more than 15,000 or 20,000 rupees. And so there will not be fear if the hotel somebody chooses only 2-3 equipment and someone chooses like 5-6 equipments. That's why we wanted to some barrier as well. So that's why we chose like 70% or 7,000, whichever is the less. Based on that, so there were people that chose different cookware. So for the induction stoves, price was fixed, but the cookware, it depends on the cost, on the type they choose. It was minimum was 7,600 rupees to 15,840, almost 16,000 rupees. So subsidy was 30 to 55%. So as I said earlier, even doing so much of work, in the first phase, only 9 people were interested to participate in the research project. We wanted to go for 25, and only 9 were happy to participate in the research. That's why it is so much important of awareness and sensitization and all these things. So once we implemented 9 restaurants in the first phase, so after like couple of weeks later, the interventions, many people started calling us. So can I also participate in the research or something like that? So then, so we just like added only 11 hotel and restaurants in the second phase. Still there were some demands, more demands, but we, because of the time constraints and also other things, we altogether did go to 20 micro enterprises. So these are some of the pictures from the events. So data collection was done using the cooking diary method. So in this methods, we did 7 days in the baseline phase, so pre-electric cooking interventions, and 7 days after electric cooking installed in the restaurants. And also we use the smart energy meters to track the data. So the electricity data was tracked for 1 to 2 months, depending on which phase those restaurants were there. But the cooking diary method was applied for 7 days pre and 7 days post interventions in both the phases. So this graph is just like highest and lowest using restaurants in the area. So after spending like a couple of months in the site after the interventions, during the pre-intervention phases, during the baseline phases, in the 7 days, there were like 1,104 cooking events, basically dishes cooked during that 7 days. And there were 30 unique dishes cooked in the pre-intervention baseline installing baseline phase. And in the in the electric cooking phase, so some dishes were increased, like 40 different unique dishes were cooked, and number of the events were decreased, like 789. So we just looked at the data also. There were like, on an average during the baseline phase, so there were 42 customers in one restaurant, whereas in the electric cooking first 7 days, there were 38 customers in a day. So that's why maybe the total cooking events might be decreased a little bit. So then we also checked about the fuel consumption, and during, as I said earlier, during the baseline phase, 98% of the restaurants were using LPG, and after the electricity interventions, around 61% of the entrepreneurs utilized electricity. So there was a huge shift from 98% to 61%. So in this table, I'm just trying to show a little bit about the rate of return. So I've just taken a few examples because so in-depth analysis is yet to complete. So on an average, so the consumption was 1.61 kilowatt hour per day. The standard deviation was 1.13, and highest restaurant used 4.6 kilowatt hour per day. To give you general information about in Nepal, so we did a lot of research on the households. The average monthly consumption is 60 kilowatt hour in Nepal, like Sunil said, 80 kilowatt hour for India. So in the urban Nepal, so average electricity consumption is 60 kilowatt hour. So that's like two units per day. So comparing to households like hotel and so even smaller hotel restaurants like 40 customers a day saves a lot of LPG, like 4.6 unit per day. So if they utilize these things, and there is a huge opportunity of saving. In a nutshell, what would I say is, like, if they utilize 86% of their total cooking need by electricity, then the payback period is only 10 months. So maybe in the Sunil's case also, this data can be useful, because when the utilization is sharply reduced, the payback period also sharply increases. If you see the hotel restaurants that utilizes only 36% of electricity for cooking, the payback period is 42 months. So that's why more the use, less the payback period. So that's how we motivate, how we support more cooking by the electricity. As discussed in the morning also, there is a all the time there is a chance of fuel stacking, but so our task is to how to utilize more and more electricity compared to LPG. And also that gives lots of saving. For Nepal, it is big saving, because like 100% LPG is imported, and all these problems bringing it to mountains, and these road blockage and all these things is another huge problem. And the electricity 100% clean, locally generated, and everything. That's why it's quite important for Nepal. So there were some challenges in the electric cooking. So we had observed very big challenges while preparing a chow mein, because chow mein is like constantly they need to shake the pan, and they had quite big problem cooking chow mein, and also some of the frying materials in the hotel and restaurants. So what I can say is, like, around 72% of the food that are based on boiling, like ras dal or like chow mein boiling or those kind of things, were cooked in the electricity during the transition phase, and 70% of the frying things, chow mein and meat fry, were cooked in LPG. So that's the that's why, like, whenever we are working in the enterprises sector, we need to understand and customize the cookware that is really helpful to cater the most of the demand. So these are the few learnings. So small and medium enterprises so can save a lot of LPG saving. So in our finding, so enterprises saved minimum 340 rupees to 2,180 rupees based on their use and demand. So only one stove is not sufficient, as that we discussed earlier also. In the hotel and restaurants, we need at least 2 stoves. That was 60% of our participants also expressed the need of the second devices to cook. So as I said earlier, financial performance or payback period is quite dependent to the utilization. More they use, less the payback period. So another quite big learning is the availability of after-sales service. So whoever we are working in the renewable energy or rural energy systems, the need of after-sales service is very important. That's why in our work in Nepal, we always combine this after-sales service with the distribution project. Also, as I said earlier, in the area, 70% of the households has only 6 ampere capacity connection. That's why we need the upgradation and all these things. Even though like 86% users can earn that money, that investment in 10 months, but some type of incentive is quite important to motivate the shift. There are some of the recommendations as I went through during my presentations. Awareness and training is quite important. Access to technology is quite important, because now people are asking us to, give them support, but still like the local vendors are not selling these units in that area, and we are also not being able to, send them the technology. That's also another thing. Affordability is like sometimes, even though it's quite affordable, but still have people have some kind of it's a presumption that like these are the quite expensive. That's why maybe some innovative financing method is also important. Repair and maintenance services, I said earlier, and also one more problem, whether it is decentralized microhydro systems or national grid, still we do not have quite reliable electricity in Nepal. Still we need to work a lot on that area. So these are the limitations. We worked only one stove, so we did not try different stoves. And also the study was conducted in the rural areas of Nepal. So having said that, so in PIDA and in our team, we agree that so 100% electric cooking is not possible. So some of the research of our findings shows if we cook like rice in morning and evening, if you are a firewood users, then you can save 55% of firewood, even cooking like only one dish, one dish for a meal. And if you are a LPG users, you can save like 25% of the LPG even by cooking. That's why partial transition is quite important, and that's how we use. And so whenever we are planning electricity, it is not necessary we bring all those, all those discussions that is valid for the 100% transition. So partial transition is always important, and that's how we can go. Thank you very much. Sorry, sir, for taking more time. So,
Any question?
Do you have any question?
yes, please.
Did you only focus on the electricity as an alternative, or do you also consider other technologies in Nepal? Just to give a background, I'm a search mountaineer. I do rapid disaster response course, including in the previous earthquake, which was in the western Nepal as well, where we found that there were other technologies that are more conducive, embraceable, and adaptable as well, given the nature of the technologies and, of course, the economic, plus the, not to mention the planetary focus that we have. Thank you.
So in the clean cooking sector, so we are just like our aim is to reduce the consumption of LPG to 40% now, which is 44%. Other than that, so we are also promoting the improved cook stoves like tier 3 ICS, which are 30% plus above efficiency. And also we do the lots of biogas, home-based biogas, and also large-scale biogas using the municipalities' waste and other things. But so this is a long-term plan. Our aspirations are, promote electric cooking 100% to Nepal, because this is electricity is homegrown, and so we are having lots of experts, but like income is very negligible compared to the benefits it brings when we use the electricity. That's why the government's priority is more on the electricity, but equally we also do biomass-based cooking promotion and also biogas-based cooking promotion. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Gautam, for a very comprehensive presentation about Nepal adoption of electric cooking. And the best thing about Nepal would be if it shift to electric cooking, it would be really clean, because as we saw, there is hardly any thermal power generation of electricity. It is entirely hydro, solar, or something like that. So it will be good. Of course, the barriers are almost common as we see in Indian rural context. Anyway, now moving to the next study, which is on multi-fuel study done in India by Finovista, and Ms. Sheetal Rastogi, no, only Ne, Dr. Ne Satsangi, Senior Analyst, Finovista, will be doing the presentation. Please, Kar.
And we are very well aware of the recent scenario in terms of clean cooking. So moving forward, I would like to come directly onto the introduction. So as we know that India is multi-diverse, and it has its own cooking practices and culture. And India have many regional cooking culture, right, belonging from North India to South India, covering many states in between. And these all cooking practices are basically been like a summation of certain cooking processes like boiling, steaming, sauteing, deep frying, roasting, pressure cooker, and slow simmering. And these kind of processes is being attained by using utensils which are very close to Indian kitchen, which are tawa, kadhai, handi, and pressure cooker, which we are very well aware of. Now coming on to the purpose of the study. So going back to 2022, we have conducted, MEX in India have conducted a study to see the feasibility of EPC, which is electric pressure cookers. So in that, to check the feasibility studies, we have done a typological study. So that typological study is basically being done to identify that which kind of dishes is being like consumed by the Indian household, what is the frequency of those dishes per week when we consume that, and that particular dish is being divided on the basis of the process which I have explained earlier, like the boiling, steaming, or it is whether deep frying, stir frying. So these are the processes by which the division of those typological studies have been made. And based on that, we have found that nearly 85% of the dishes are actually feasible when we used EPC. So they are very easily being cooked using an electric pressure cooker. But during the process, we have like actually tried nearly about 20 to 22 dishes comprising of the main processes. Like also these dishes were divided on the basis of the process. Like we have chosen dal, khichdis, and then rice, and steamed and boiled vegetables, which are generally being cooked, along with subsidies. So these components actually make the important part of Indian diet. So we have chosen these 2022, we have shortlisted those 2022 dishes based on the typological study. And by doing the kitchen lab experiments, we got to know that there are certain processes which are not at all feasible on electric pressure cooker, like puffing roti, frying, and roasting. So based on that, we have tend to shift it and bring that cooking studies to phase 2, where we have like chosen multi-fuel study. So in this, we have selected certain e-cooking devices so as to check that whether using these additional devices can make the Indian cuisine 100% on e-cooking. And also, we have used the baseline as LPG. So we have tested the efficacies of all these e-cooking devices against LPG. So as I have mentioned, that the appliances were used are EPC, induction cooktop, infrared, electric fryers, and LPG was used as a baseline fuel. And this time we have tested like 6 dishes which have like tur dal, plain rice, boiled potatoes, moong dal khichdi, puri, aloo gobi, and they comprises of the cooking processes basically boiling, steaming, stir frying, sauteing, and deep frying. And all the trials which have been done are in triplicates for each appliance. So we have done 3 trials for each devices, just to get the mean average and to maintain the accuracy and the standardization of the process. And also coming on to the parameters which have been evaluated generally comprise of the cost, time, energy, and also some other secondary factors like the usability, taste outcomes, and user experience was also monitored, along with challenges and limitations. Now coming on to the result. So these are the standardizations on the results finding for the tur dal. And as the result states that when we talk about the energy efficiency, we have found that EPC is the most energy efficient device, where only about 0.30 kilowatt of like energy is being used as compared to LPG, which is 0.55 kilowatt of hours. And as you can see that while cooking this tur dal on an e-cooking device can save up to 45% of energy as compared to LPG. And when I say that as these results are done in triplicates, they are also being done in accordance with the serving size of 4 persons. So whatever readings is being shown over here are in accordance with the serving size of 4 people. So as we have seen that, we have also compared it with the LPG, and we have found that tur dal can be cooked 11% faster on induction as compared to LPG. And we have seen that when we come to the moong dal khichdi results, here also we have found that there is a similar trend where the EPC is the most energy efficient, taking only 0.36 kilowatt hour, whereas for LPG, the readings are much higher, which is about 0.79 kilowatt hour of energy. And we have found that cooking moong dal khichdi on an e-cooking device on an average can save up to 54% of energy as compared to LPG. So then going forward to the plain rice. So here we have seen that EPC again is energy efficient. So when we talk about the energy efficiency, EPC follows the similar pattern in all the dishes which we have prepared as compared to LPG, where only 0.32 kilowatt of hour is being used. And cooking rice generally saves around 50% of energy while cooked using an e-cooking devices as compared to LPG. And nearly rice is cooked 8% faster on LPG than induction. So when we compared that on which device rice is being cooked faster, although it is on LPG, but the difference between LPG and induction is not that significant. It's only 8%. And coming on to the boiled potato also, we have seen the similar trend where EPC is the most energy efficient, and the total saving or the energy saved while using e-cooking devices is around 47% as compared to LPG. And when we compared it with the EPC, induction is nearly 31% faster while boiling the potatoes. Sorry. Now we have another dish which are the sabji kind of stir-fried, I would rather say, a dish when being made using an EPC. So I would like to state that here also we have found that EPC is most energy efficient, but there are certain kind of like technical challenges which have been associated when we cooked aloo gobi using an EPC. So here we can see, because aloo gobi is generally being used by the method, is being prepared by using a stir frying, where continuously or often the dish is being like stirred so that it doesn't stick to the pan. But as an alternate, because in EPC the pressurization method is being used, so in this there is a bit of technical challenge which has been associated while cooking an aloo gobi, and here we have actually pressurized the vegetable. So in pressurization, what has happened is that if we have we have increased the duration of pressurization, then the vegetable turned out to be mushy. So what we did, although the entire like the tur dal, khichdi, the aloo gobi, the rice are all prepared using a preset menu. So in EPC we have this preset menu where we actually preset the menu on a pressure cooker mode and we left it unsupervised. And then accordingly it is up to the device that whatever energy it is consuming and how much energy has been entrapped while the pressurization, and all the time is being set in a preset menu. So in aloo gobi, what we did is just to maintain the consistency of the vegetable, we actually release the pressure manually. So as a result, the energy consumed is also less, whereas the time taken is also less, because we have intervened the automated process and we have released the pressure via manual mode. So that is the technical challenge which we have faced while cooking aloo gobi. Now coming on to the preparation of puri. So we have done just one trial on the EPC, and we have observed that EPC is not at all like feasible in frying puri, because one, the temperature, which is the optimal temperature which is required to fry the puri, is not being maintained by the EPC. And another reason is because for frying puri, there is like a special technique when you need to puff the puri and you have to like swaddle the spoon from one end and we try to puff the puri. So because of the circumference of the EPC, it is not possible. So we did one trial and we didn't found it to be suitable. So we replaced it with deep electric deep fryers. So these are basically, as we all know, are specialized in frying. So we have used a utensil which have this specific technicality of frying, and we have observed that induction is the most energy efficient in frying puri. And when I said that frying puri, this reading shows the preparation for frying 16 puris, because these are all the preparation are as per the serving of 4. So on an average, the calculation is done not to fry 1 puri but 16 puris for the serving of 4 people. So we have found that induction is the most energy efficient in frying the puri, whereas the least time is taken, whereas infrared cooktops took the least time in frying these puris. And we have found that frying puri on electric cooking device can save up to 41% of energy as compared to LPG. And on the other hand, we have also found that the frying puris can be like 11% faster on infrared as compared to LPGs. So these are the results. Now coming on to the findings. as we have seen that in the starting of the presentation, I have told that the findings are based on the usability, time, energy, cost, user experience, and taste. So first we'll discuss about the usability, that how well was the appliance is being used and what are the outcomes when we have cooked those specific 6 dishes on these appliances. So as I've told you that while cooking dishes like rice, tur dal, boiled potatoes and moong dal khichdi, they are all being cooked on preset menus, and because these are all preset, they are automated, the EPC take longer time to release the pressure automatically because we are not intervening it. So when we cook the device on the preset menu, the pressure release is also automatic. Now coming on to EPC, as we have tried that for frying as well, so we have found that EPC is not suitable for frying, and also it is not suitable for stir frying vegetables, because in that we tend to often stir the vegetable, and in this process it is not possible because once the lid is closed on EPC, this frying process is not at all possible. The stir frying process is not possible. Then Indian consumers are also very much aligned to double or dual stove concept. So therefore sometimes induction, while the consumer are using induction cooktops, they lack the sense of user friendliness, and because of the absence of doing multitasking with inductions. So that is one of the challenge or usability or outcome as a usability with respect to consumers. Then infrared cooktop is being associated with slow heating, so they are less efficient with respect to induction, but they are more versatile in utensil compatibility. And as you have seen in the exhibition section also, now we have this curved. So this concept of using this flat round bottom utensils can also be very well adapted to this kind of utensils or appliance. Then deep fryers are not versatile beyond frying because they are very much subjected to frying, because they have this process of inbuilt thermostat which are very much adaptable to maintaining hot oil temperatures. So they are not like beyond any processes which involve beyond frying. So, and then LPG, coming on to the LPG, supports every type of cooking, for example boiling, steaming, so they have enhanced cooking flexibility. And then moving on to time, we have seen that induction took the least amount of time while compared with all e-cooking devices, and they are very much efficient in processes like sorting and pressurization. Also the result shows that induction cooktops were around 23% more faster in cooking staple dishes as compared to LPG. And the results also shows, as I've also explained, that they are 8% faster in cooking a staple dish like rice. So we have presented the graph for time, where we can see that for EPCs, the time taken is much more as compared to induction. So inductions are nearly about 23% faster comparing with LPG. Now coming on to the efficiency. So we have found that EPC, in all the trend, we have found that EPC is the most energy efficient, and it generally is saving 54% of energy in general when we cook dishes like tur dal, rice, khichdi, and we have boiled potatoes. So up to 54% energy could be saved by using an EPC. And when we talk about the trend of efficiency, we have found that the EPCs are the most efficient, followed by induction cooktops, and then the radiant cooktops or the infrared cooktops, and afterwards the least efficient being the LPG. The trials also show that LPG is the least efficient, where the range of energy which is used in cooking these dishes generally varies between 0.32 kilowatt to 0.79 kilowatt. And these are the energy graphs for each 6 dishes which we have actually made in the control kitchen test, along with the cost, because efficiency and cost actually related, they are directly proportional. So we have find that the kitchen laboratory shows that EPC, the dishes which have been cooked using an EPC generally range in a very feasible cost, which is like 0.80 to less than 2 INR for all the dishes. And then we have indicated that these Induction cooktops are basically 40% cheaper as compared to LPG in cooking these dishes, whereas LPG is the costliest cooking fuel. Now coming on to the user experience, as I've told that all the dishes are prepared on the preset menu, so electric pressure cookers are very convenient and almost hand-free. Cooking on induction, whereas, is very fast and safe, and because induction has this one program that, or one feature that whenever you remove the utensils, the induction stops automatically. So that kind is also something which saves it further in terms of the energy and also from further accidents. Then also puris in electric deep fryers are puffed well, and the presence of thermostat is able to maintain the boiling temperature or the optimal temperature which is required to fry the puris. And infrared cooktops are flexible and can be worked with all cookwares. And LPG supports almost every type of cooking. For example, they are like very much feasible to do the processes. Even the roasting and grilling can be done using an LPG. So it enhances the cooking flexibility. Then coming on to the taste, it has been that dishes cooked on EPC are like soft and have well cooked and preserved texture because of the steam and pressure retention. Then on cooking on induction results in well textured and even flavors. Whereas because of slow heating on an infrared cooktop, the taste which is achieved is more traditional because it is been slow cooked and all the flavors are been well enhanced into the dish. Then puri, when we fried using a deep fryer, is like being puffed well and they absorbed less taste, and because of the presence of thermostat, the temperature is maintained to an optimal level and thus avoiding the burnt oil flavor which generally have in puris. And coming on to the LPG cooking, because it supports every kind of cooking processes, even the roasting. So sometimes the taste of roasted flavors are well enhanced while cooking on the LPGs. Now the last segment is the challenges. So as I've told that while doing the kitchen trials, we have experienced certain kind of challenges which are being mentioned here. Like in EPC, it is a single pot cooking, so multiple stages process, a dish which comprises of multiple stages, like tempering, roasting, sauteing, frying, is not possible to be replicated in one pot. And the similar kind of challenge we have experienced in aloo gobi, and I've shared the case with the audience. And I've also shared that as an alternative, we tend to fry the aloo gobi, and when frying, we have to like manually release the pressure. So this sometimes require a training to understand the device well. Also, frying using an EPC was not feasible, and we did one trial and we found out the byproduct was not at all edible, and the puris which are being like fried were very hard and not puffed at all. And when we talk about the induction, it has one challenge, that puffing rotis directly on induction is not possible. For the fryers, since they are specialized for frying, it cannot replicate processes which allow shallow frying in tadka style. And also for infrared, therefore heating is slow, therefore preparing dishes on infrared is generally very slow in general. And LPG, because it is inefficient, it rapidly makes the edges of the utensil very hot, therefore handling the utensils while cooking becomes sometimes difficult. So yeah, these are the results and findings.
Just curious to know how much was the efficiency for EPC stoves, like in general? What was the range?
For time efficiency, for energy efficiency. So yeah, so when we talk about the energy, we have like prepared 6 dishes, and on an average we have found that nearly 50 to 54% efficient EPC is in cooking all these dishes.
Additional 50%.
Yeah, when we have compared it, so because in one case where I've explained it with aloo gobi, the efficiency increases to 70%. So in that case, I've told you the reason that we have intervened manually. So that actually reduces the time because we are releasing the pressure manually. So it automatically makes it, when we calculated it, so it automatically makes it more efficient. But actually, practically, we are intervening it. So we have like actually not including that data, but when we have cooked the majority of the dishes, that is 50 to 54% efficiency.
I'm surprised for the dal because the time taken for cooking is almost double than the LPG. However, the energy you showed is, almost
Yeah,
half.
so that is what I'm telling, that we have cooked all the menus using a preset menu. So as it works on the principle of what you say, it it basically works on the principle of insulation. So device will take its own time to get insulated, to trap the heat. So once it has been set on the preset menu, then the device is working. So it has been inbuilt that how it is taking the energy when it is stopping, how it is building that insulation process. So it is all like in the process of like preset menu. And also why it is taking time, because when you switch off the power plug after 3 whistle, the insulation also takes time to slow down as compared to other device. So this is what actually.
I'll also add to what Lee said. So I'll explain you how electric pressure cookers work fundamentally. So you would be imagining that if the electric pressure cooker is started, then it's taking consistent energy consumption. That is not how it works. So electric pressure cookers have a point that they reach where they reach an optimum heating point where pressurization happens. And once that thing is already done, it doesn't consume energy. So when you do energy monitoring on that, you will understand that we switch on electric pressure cooker, it does its preheating and it comes on to the pressurization level when the the fully insulated environment. And when if you've set the pressurization for 10-15 minutes, when it's actually doing the pressurization, it will not take
Consume energy.
more energy, because it's fully insulated devices and there is no heat loss which is happening. And therefore it doesn't work on the principle like induction cooktops or infrared, in which when you have plugged in those devices, it's continuously drawing energy. So that's the difference, and therefore it doesn't has any relationship with time. Otherwise, when you talk about inductions and infrared, you typically calculate that if I'm running my induction at this wattage for like 15 minutes, 10 minutes, this is my power consumption. In electric pressure cooker, it doesn't work like that. Viraj, you want to answer?
No, so that's what I wanted to say. We did a lot of research and so that's the same thing. Just so currently, like 5 to 6 liter EPC are like 150 watt to 1.2 kilowatt. That's what in market is available. When you are cooking dal, then maybe first 10 minutes it consumes full energy. Then when there is a pressure created, then energy consumption drops to 50 to 100 watt. So then it cooked with the pressure. That's why. So that's what she said.
So if you see the energy reading after first whistle, second whistle and third whistle, so there is no significant difference.
And
So it is
also
not
I'll mention one thing, that since we have to do this scientifically, we have to use the automated menus which are there, and different brands calibrate their menus at different times and pressure and power ratings, okay? If you also have an option of doing a manual setting in an electric pressure cooker. So if you are an avid cook, you would know that your dal will typically take 10 minutes or 12 minutes for pressurization, and you'll manually set that. But then it comes by practice and by understanding. But most of the users who are using electric pressure cookers tend to use the automated menus, and there is a pre-calibration done to that. So it's like once you have inserted all your materials and you have closed the lid, it's going to sense itself that how much energy needs to be consumed basis the quantity that you have put in, and you have also selected whether you want high pressure or low pressure. So yeah. Yeah.
See, when we talk about residential cooking, that's for individual purposes, this works great. But then when we tip the scale towards the industrial cooking, industrial needs, then don't you think that there are other fuels that could work better rather than electric, considering, this is a caveat, considering where we are taking the electricity from, because solar is not capable to generate that amounts of intensity to take that load rather to cater to the needs of the industrial cooking, wherein possibly the hydrogen, possibly other kinds of fuel might come in picture, wherein it could even beat the electric, because I'm all about smart cooking, because I've seen devices that are fantastic out of this world. Like as you said, presets, there are 30 presets, 40 presets to cook, which makes we people like dumb. You don't have to do anything, just press that button and it's done. But then when it comes to industrial large-scale cooking, like we were having a discussion earlier this morning, outside of the panel discussion, is that what do we have solutions for large scale? You know, if you're running a bandara, if you're running industrial scale kitchens, then what do we do? There, I think these would take a back seat and say the other fuels might come in handy. Your comments, please.
There are two aspects to it. First of all, when you talk about the technical feasibility, first I'll answer this question from a technical feasibility perspective. So electric pressure cookers, or I'm talking about n number of devices, and some of them were also displayed in the exhibition that you have. You have devices very well established and available in the market of electric cooking for doing all sorts of commercial scale cooking. And I'll give you an example. We've also recently, piloted in 2 large-scale schools where meals for 200, 400 children have been seamlessly cooked in electric cooking, because there's a range of devices which is available. When I come to specifically electric pressure cookers, so what we have done our testing is on the domestic model. In the same way you get institutional EPCs, electric pressure cookers, which are very large, this thing. So the aspect that we bring over here is that forget about whichever form of energy, because if you see the graphs, we've converted the LPG-based energy into an equivalent form. We see that the net energy which is being spent in cooking is more efficient when you are taking the electric. Now I come to second part of your aspect, which you say that there are different forms of fuels which are available, and we also understand and appreciate that at a grid level we do not have that much contributions of renewable. But I mean, like we set the context in the forum today morning, and it was the same unanimous voice which came from the policymakers themselves, that see there are 2 rooms which are doing their work. There is a room which is doing their work on energy access, and there is a room which is doing their work on clean cooking. What we are trying to say is we need to leverage the gains we are making in one room to another. So while you and I are talking, in the past 2 years, we've made significant strides in terms of adding the renewable energy capacity within our grids. Stories will never change in 1 day or 2 days, but we need to keep testing. We need to come to a point where we have technology solutions available in the market, that one day when we have a good contribution at the grid level for renewables, we have solutions which are available in the market and we know whether they are efficient or not. So I think that's the work that we are trying to put in. Thank you.
2 words to sum it up what you said. One is innovation, yes. 2 is collaboration. Because we have been working in silos. Yes. This is my issue too with the various ministries, which I also consult as a subject matter expert. When I was requested to be the commander for the relief convoy to go to Myanmar, we have the entire calculation of my needs. So I've been talking about right from cooling technologies to how we could feed 25,000 people in a day. So you're talking about electric where there's nothing. I would rely on generators. And so for me, I was looking at hydrogen. I'll tell you, hydrogen is something out of this world. So when the country is moving towards hydrogen economy, and there's also a narrative which pulls back to go back to the electricity, which will take our country back towards another 15 years or 20 years backwards. Unless we have the grid which is fed by electricity, that is by the renewable energy. That is a different game altogether. So it's a different game we are trying to play here, and the geopolitical forces are also very different, which also pulls that undermining our country as well. So leaving that aside, we got to see what our energy security is, what our economic security is. Are we really moving forward in terms of innovation and collaboration and integration? If we do these things, then I think we are on the same page. But then we've also got to address what is the affordability as well. That's the economic aspect of it which we are talking about. But anyway, I'll stop there. We agree to be on the same page. How we take a country and, of course, the planet forward is left to everyone else as well. Thanks.
Thank you.
Next presentation, we will go along, is by CLASP, Global Leap Awards for Induction Cookstoves. And the presenter is Ms. Sumedha Avasthi, Senior Associate CLASP, and Sri Jatun Mathur. Has he come? Okay, right. He's also Associate CLASP. So both of you are welcome.
Good evening, everyone, and I'm sorry this is the last session, so I won't hold you long between your samosas and chai. We'll be quick with this one. So my name is Sumedha. I'm representing CLASP here today. CLASP is a not-for-profit, and we've been in the sector for 25 years now. We have a presence across the world, globally. In India, we have office in New Delhi, where we work on climate energy efficiency, so looking at appliance energy efficiency specifically. And we also look at appliances in the clean energy access space, where we see, how appliances can be affordable, appliances can be more efficient and standardized. So the presentation today actually just does not cover one program, but we are looking at through three lenses. One is through the policy, second is financing, and third is the market shaping initiatives. So the first program we have, and we call it market shaping within CLASP, but it is nothing but market transformation programs. I'll be talking a little bit through those programs, and then my colleague Jatin will walk us through the financing and standards and labeling program we have in India. So to start with, why access to clean cooking matters. I mean, these are the numbers I think you've seen throughout the day today, so I won't really deep dive into them. But just the third one, an annual investment of USD 4.5 million is required to clean cooking for all. And these are the numbers that within CLASP, when we were strategizing, what is it that we should do for cooking, these were the stark numbers that we saw, and we thought this is a sector we should get into. And we've also become now the official MEX partners globally this year. So some of the key challenges through the various programs we've done, not just in India, but Africa, remain consumer preferences, so taste being one of the challenge, just shifting consumers, not just in the Indian market, but Africa also faces the same issues. Operating cost concerns is another big issue, upfront cost just of the technology, and then the cost of using the technology in itself. The third is around the lack of local repair options. So this we've seen, I think, across access space, be it solar water pumps, cold storage, and now cooking as well, that equipments reach the end user, but what happens when they stop working? So that is one concern we're also looking at. Electricity access, high upfront cost, and rural-urban divide. Then lack of interest in just switching to a newer fuel. Inability to switch because of building ownerships and issues. Even in urban areas, we've seen in kitchens that they're not equipped to actually have electric cooking when you see the older kitchens or DDA apartments here in Delhi, right? So what's our approach towards electric cooking? We work across these 4 pillars. The first being governmental awareness, where we help governments make e-cooking strategies, not just in India. So we worked with the UK government. We came up with a study where we saw how health is impacted there, and that was nationally recognized study. Then we also work to enable the environment, so working on e-cooking infrastructure. So we work with DISCOMs, we work with utilities to understand if there's a shift, and if we say that all urban households move to electric cooking, what's the load that happens at the DISCOM level and how to cater to that load. The third pillar is around financing. So how to encourage the development of diverse financing options to promote not just producers and consumer, but also to promote investments into the sector. So we have an innovative result-based innovation program, which Jatin will speak more about. And the fourth is, of course, around the consumer preferences, where we are looking at the shift the market towards more sustainable cooking options. So here we're also looking at awareness generation at the consumer level. So I'll just skip this slide because I think it's been covered already in great detail. But directly jumping onto the program on market shaping, the first program that we started off was Global Leap Awards. This has been there since 2014, and this is an international competition that basically recognizes the most energy efficient appliances for energy constrained settings. So here, this award started off not for just cooking appliances, but these are all appliances which are coming as impactful appliances or emerging technologies. So we've done this award for solar water pumps. We did it for cold storages. In cooking specifically, we did it for two technologies, EPCs and induction cookstoves. On the other side, on the left side, institutional eCooking demo. This is again a program we have where we are field testing projects. And this is specifically for institutions we are looking at. Here we are also looking at not just the grid power, but how do you also look at solar powered solutions with your electric cooking. So for the Global Leap Awards, we did two awards, one for induction, one for EPC. For the induction one, that was conducted in Kenya and India, and in fact, Finovista was our partners in India for this award. It was done in two phases, where we basically would ask the manufacturers to nominate their products, and manufacturers then would send us all the induction stoves, which would then go to the users. There were two parts to it. One was lab testing. So we used the international standards, and we sent those the inductions to the labs for testing. And the second was usability testing. So we call them citizen scientists, who were our end users for 11 weeks. They tested all the 11 induction stoves and gave us reviews on durability, value for money, service delivery, and other aspects as well. Similarly, we did for EPCs, 9 EPCs from 8 companies in Kenya. And there again, similar parameters were we kind of tested, and there also there was lab testing which was involved. So this is one of our users in New Delhi, and in fact she took this induction and she's using it, and she's putting videos on YouTube also now. So I mean that's the kind of shift you see, right? This is another user in Kenya who is using the induction, and these inductions which we tested, the Indian inductions were also tested in Kenya. So it was really surprising that they were liking the Indian inductions more than the Kenyan ones itself, and the Indian users were liking the Kenyan ones more. And the second thing was just about what were the different methodologies we used for these testings. So in the left side, you'll see in orange the parameters. We looked at energy efficiency through lab. So in labs, we tested the energy consumption, the standby power, thermal efficiency. And we also did a controlled cooking test where we brought all the users together, gave them the same ingredients and the same recipes, and they had to cook. There we measured the energy consumption. We also saw the service delivery, so the heat up time for the appliance. The controlled cooking test looked at the cooking time. Then there was a usability where we looked at user feedback from the uncontrolled home cooking. So there we asked the users about durability, safety, ease of use, service delivery, and also appearance itself, the size, the portability. And we also asked them questions around value for money, if they were willing to purchase that product at the cost it was marketed at. So in this, it was interesting because one of the manufacturers, Prestige, had a new product and they had not actually launched it in the market, and it was nominated under this award. So they also got insights through this. Now the main aim was of this specific competition was that we had to recognize four inductions in different categories, and there were prize money involved. So like this program, what we do is that this helps basically manufacturers learn not just that what the user is thinking, but also at the lab what their products are performing like. So we gave them data which we received from the lab. We gave them insights which our end users gave us. And they were very interesting insights because some of the users had like insights like, there's some inductions which does not have written a steam setting. So they said there should be a visual representation of that. Someone said that a glass panel on an induction is a problem because even if my kid, hits something, it'll break. So those are the insights then we kind of gave to the manufacturers. Also, it's important that these user-centric design is critical. So not just testing these products in a lab, but in the real-world setting is important because they behave very differently in the real-world settings, right? So this is the buyer's guide which everyone can access. This has information about each of the inductions we tested, and also there's a similar guide for the EPC as well. And this is available on our website, Efficiency for Access program. The second program was around institutional eCooking demonstration, specifically in Kenya. Here, just to give the context, Kenyan schools, almost 90% are still using firewood to cook, and they spend almost $15,000 annually just to get this firewood. So this program, we were again testing feasibility, the technical performance, and end-user impact of electric cooking, specifically in the school settings. So we installed 9 such e-cookstoves, and these were about 300-liter stoves. We collected both the qualitative, quantitative data on energy consumption, usage pattern, and user preferences in this. These 9 schools were basically catering to almost 15,000 users, both students and the staff. And the main learnings from the programs were that to have a success in terms of an institutional setting, infrastructure and fit is very important. So institutional e-cooking requires reliable power because they have to, the meals have to go to the student at a certain time. So it's very important that there's a reliable power source there. And also the technology is aligned with the cooking needs. So in case of the Kenyan settings, they basically do stews, something like lentils for us, and that was easily done in these cook stoves. Secondly, stakeholder engagement, active involvement of the users and institutions critical. And third is obviously financing. So high upfront costs is an issue, even though operating costs are lower, but they still need innovative financing mechanisms to procure these products at the start. So now I'll invite my colleague Jatin to walk us through the other 2 programs.
Thank you, Sumedha. So now, what is HTCC? It is a 5-year program component under the Strengthening the Entrepreneurial Ecosystem for Clean Cooking, which is financed by European Commission and implemented by RVO, which is the Netherlands Enterprise Agency. Broadly, the program supports SMEs in 3 different set of areas. One is the pipeline development of their businesses, access to finance for innovation and growth, which includes result-based financing, innovation facility, general support to finance, and strengthening an active enabling environment, which largely concerns about government capacity building, knowledge development and support, and etc. CLASP is one of the partners to undertake the delivery of a result-based financing component of HTCC program. Our approach is to combine product quality and reverse auction process to select companies for allocating procurement subsidies. These subsidies would then support the affordability and accessibility of these appliances. The project till now has supported 6 companies which benefited over 52,000 people. But what did we learn from this program? Subsidy reallocation mid-programs must be thought out depending on the performance of the companies, which then maximize the impact potential of these funds used.
Timeframes to execute RBF program must be longer in order to allow refinement and improvement of business models. Crowding in other form of financial support can allow sustainability of these kinds of programs. Last, companies offering payment plans rather than cash sales recorded higher sales of products, reflecting on different set of business models affecting the performance of the company and the program. Now let's talk a little bit about policies. We all love policies. When it comes to who regulates energy efficiency of appliances in India, we have two public institutions. One, we have the Bureau of Indian Standard, and second is Bureau of Energy Efficiency, members of whom are present here today at this forum, representing in some other panel discussions. BIS is a national body which regulates the quality, safety, performance, and reliability of all appliances in India. They set energy performance benchmarks, quality control orders for compliances, and etc. On the other hand, Bureau of Energy Efficiency, BEE, another statutory body responsible to reduce energy intensity of the Indian economy by improving the average energy efficiency of the market. It is also the agency primarily responsible to oversee the standards and labeling program in India. BEE sets minimum energy performance standard, which is called the MEPS, as well as the star rating band to guide consumers on energy saving potential of these appliances. Induction cooktops are the only primary e-cooking appliance that is covered under the standard and labeling program. We conducted rigorous testing of randomly selected appliances from the market as per IS 19014, which is the standard for a performance standard for induction cooktops in India. The induction cooktop was launched, the program was launched in 2022 under voluntary status, basis the recommendations provided by CLASP. This is the market assessment report, and then that's the schedule 34 of induction cooktop. Early 2025, we conducted another set of testing to understand the current level of efficiency in the market. Based on the findings, CLASP recommended BEE to make the SNL program mandatory from 2026, with a slight revision in one of the pre-qualification criteria, that is standby power, that was based on the findings from our lab testing results. The program is set to achieve cumulative energy savings of 2.17 billion units by 2030. So what did we learn about this? Number one, standards and policies are vital in driving market transformation of consumer-driven appliances. Without proper regulatory framework in place, OEMs and brands lack incentives and the push to improve performance and efficiency of the appliances. Limited testing infrastructure, and that we have seen during the program, during the study itself, this creates hindrance for compliance and market feedback activities. And last, mandatory policies allow innovation and competitiveness across the industry. So successfully, this program will become mandatory from 2026, and all the induction cooktops in the next 1 year will have the star label. And then you can select which induction cooktop to buy. Thank you. Any questions? It's approved by BE. It went for approval to Ministry of Power, but we are hoping it's pretty positive there. Yeah. So government gives a buffer time of 6 months when the notification is out. So we are hoping that the notification is out from December. The policy will become active in January, and the OEM has the buffer time of 6 months till June, July to comply with it. Yeah. Any other questions?
I mean, these global leap awards, manufacturer have to apply for that?
Yeah, so the process was...
Suppose you said India and Kenya, two
Yeah.
countries. Then is it essential that the product has been produced in that country?
No. So it's mostly the eligibility criteria was that the company should be selling the product in Kenya and India.
Okay.
Yes, that's it. Manufacturing can happen anywhere, but but the marketplace should be Kenya and India. Yeah. The market, yeah. And the nomination process was open to all the manufacturers, so they have applied it. We got around 21 nominations from OEMs, and then based on selection process, we selected around 11 induction cooktops for the Global Leap Awards. Based on that, we got three winners and one special mention. Yeah.
Tests are conducted in the same. I mean, India and Kenya has the same water, I mean, wattage supply. I'm not sure about Kenya. Is it 110 volt or 220?
Yeah.
At the inductions which we got, then we had to use plugs, the Kenya ones, the convertible plugs.
Yeah, convertible plugs,
So
yes.
that means it is 110 out there.
Yeah, yeah.
Any
Any other
other question?
question? Cool, thank you.
Thank you, Sumedha, and thank you, Jatin, for a very, highly technical, although, as it measures the efficiency, and I'm not sure what other factors are factored in during this process. But that makes it that was the last presentation of this session, and I'm really thankful to all the four presenter and the organization. The first one was IISD, then PIDA, then Finovista, and CLASP finally. So it has been, overall what I find that the researches which have been carried out in Nepal or in India, or again with comparison, I'm not sure about Kenya because our dishes, slightly cooking is different, but Nepal and India is almost quite close, if not same. So what I find that the barriers are also very similar in that sense. The affordability, the adoption, the hesitation, these are the factors. And of course, as we see in the case of the Nepal research, the power supply was an important factor. Here also the durability and the quality of supply, the strength of the infrastructure. So, they are really looking like a genuine results of that, and they also conform to the general perception as well. So that is really interesting, and I'm sure these will be helpful for those who are responsible for implementation of transition to clean cooking in third world countries. I still consider India as a third world because a large part of India is certainly third world, let me admit that. So with that, I will again be conveying my sincere thanks to all of you for being here, for taking interest in the research session. Generally, it is not that much glamorous compared to some other presentation, but it was interesting, and for mind, that was really a food for thought. So thank you very much, everybody present here.